But first, here's my take. President Trump's speech on Tuesday at the UN was an intelligent, at times eloquent presentation of his America First worldview. He laid out an approach of pursuing narrow self-interest over broader global ones and privileging unilateral action over multilateral cooperation. But Trump might not recognize that as he withdraws America from these global arenas, the rest of the world is moving on without Washington. Wittingly or not, Donald Trump seems to be hastening the arrival of a post-American world. Take one of his first major actions, pulling out of the Trans-Pacific Partnership. This sweeping trade deal was an attempt to open long-closed markets like Japan, but also to create a grouping that could stand up to China's growing might in trade matters. The other 11 TPP countries decided to keep the deal minus Washington, which simply means America will not gain access to those markets. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe always sweet-talks Donald Trump, but he quickly struck a free trade agreement with the European Union, giving opportunities to Europe that might otherwise have gone to America. As Ivo Daalder and James Lindsay point out in their forthcoming book, The Empty Throne, if you are not at the table, you are on the menu. When Washington steps away, the global agenda is shaped without American input. So withdrawing from the UN Human Rights Council simply means that American diplomats will watch from the sidelines the group's routine condemnations of Israel. When Trump cuts funding for various international agencies, he's playing right into the hands of Beijing, which has long sought greater influence in these bodies. Similarly, the bizarre and continued absence of key American diplomats, no assistant secretaries of state for East Asia and South Asia, no ambassadors to Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Egypt, South Africa, among others, means that American interests are just not being represented. Perhaps the most remarkable new effort to sidestep America has come from the Europeans in reaction to Trump's decision to pull out of the Iran nuclear pact and reimpose financial sanctions on Iran and anyone who does business with Iran. Because of the immense strength of the dollar, few major companies are willing to engage commercially with Iran. The Europeans are therefore trying to create an economic mechanism that can bypass the dollar. Listen to what the EU's foreign policy chief, Federica Mogherini, told me at an event this week.
We cannot accept as Europeans that others, even our closest allies and friends, determine and decide with whom we can make business with or trade.
She indicated that other countries, presumably Russia and China, might join this effort. Were the EU's efforts to come to fruition, they would put a dent in the most significant element of American financial power, the unrivaled role of the dollar in the global economy. The truth is, the European effort is unlikely to succeed. The dollar towers above its competitors like the euro. And yet, it seems foolish for Washington to pursue policies that produce the desire to curtail American power, bypass Washington, create new arrangements, especially among America's closest allies. The result of America's abdication under Donald Trump will not be European dominance or Chinese dominance. It will probably be, in the long run, greater disorder, the erosion of global rules and norms, and a more unpredictable, unstable world with fewer opportunities to buy, sell, and invest around the globe. In other words, it'll mean a less peaceful and prosperous world, and one in which American influence will be severely diminished. How does this make America great? Now for our What in the World segment. When countries see terrible atrocities these days, they have one more mechanism by which to try to right the wrong: the International Criminal Court. For example, on Wednesday, 5 South American countries and Canada asked the court to investigate the Venezuelan government for possible crimes against humanity. But the court has one chief critic, President Donald Trump, who pilloried it in a speech at the UN General Assembly the day before.
As far as America is concerned, the ICC has no jurisdiction, no legitimacy, and no authority.
That came 2 weeks after National Security Advisor John Bolton gave his first major policy address, a stinging critique of the court, which he called ineffective, unaccountable, and dangerous, and suggested it would, quote, die on its own, unquote.
After all, for all intents and purposes, the ICC is already dead to us.
What is all this rancor about? Well, the court may soon announce an investigation into war crimes in Afghanistan that could implicate United States military personnel. It would be the first time ever that the court has trained its sights on the U.S., which is not a member and does not accept the court's jurisdiction. But the global court has always been a special target of America First conservatives who see it as a worrying sign of creeping global government. I recently asked the president of the ICC, Chile Ebo Osuji, to respond to these charges.
I think it's important for us to remain focused, all eyes on the ball, on why the ICC was created and why it is there. The ICC is the only permanent international criminal court that was established to ensure some hope for victims of atrocities.
The court formally launched in 2002 and now includes 123 member countries. The U.S. was originally a signatory to the agreement that established the court, but then it withdrew. The court represented hope in an idea that some of the worst crimes against humanity, genocide, ethnic cleansing, could be punished and perhaps over time deterred. But the court has long been criticized, not just by John Bolton. In 16 years, it has completed just 6 trials. Only 4 ended in convictions. 3 more are ongoing. And it spent $2 billion to get there, according to an analysis by the journalist Thierry Cruvellier in the New York Times. I asked the president about that record. The argument is not these are not worthy causes. The argument is it seems a very, very, very cumbersome process to get at them.
Justice is a cumbersome process. Anyone who tells you that it can be done speedily, with respect, probably doesn't know how it works. I believe it was Benjamin Cardozo, a famous U.S. jurist, who said that justice is not to be taken by storm. It is to be wooed by slow advances.
Critics say the court is susceptible to political influence, largely because most of its cases are referred either by a member country or the UN Security Council, and its investigations depend on the willingness of governments to participate, which is by no means given. Ironically, many of the charges against the court would be at least partly mitigated if it had the support of a powerful country like the United States, as the political scientists Terence Chapman and Stephen Shadowan note in the Washington Post. If the United States took up that role and tried to make the court work better rather than undermining it, it would be fulfilling a decades-old precedent that began with American leadership during the Nuremberg trials. President Ebo Osuji argued,
"We do believe that America belongs to the ICC and we miss its leadership at the ICC. It is time that it joined the ICC. This is the kind of thing they know how to do. And when they come to the party, people feel more confident about the effort, feel better about it, and we do want them to be there with us. The victims need them."